What's up to all of my lovely people out there? I am Milky Way Flyer bringing you a galaxy of games, reactions, and reviews. Today we are talking about one of the most polarizing characters in gaming history, Abby from The Last of Us Part 2. Love her or hate her, Abby's character raises complex questions about morality, empathy, and what it truly means to be a villain. Before you join me on this journey of exploring Abby, don't proceed any further if you have not played The Last of Us Part 2. With that said, let's jump into the $1,000,000 question. Is Abby really the villain or just another victim of circumstance? Complex motivations. One of the things that makes a villain truly great is when we can empathize with them or at least understand why they do what they do. A good villain often makes us ask, if I were pushed to the same extremes, what would I do? Who would I become? When a character makes us confront these questions, you know the story has crafted a strong villain. When I look at Abby in The Last of Us Part 2, that question comes up immediately. In the first game, Joel kills her father. He wipes out the fireflies in the hospital, saving Ellie at the cost of countless lives. So when we step into Abby's story in the second half of the game, it's easy to empathize with her. Who wouldn't want revenge after losing their father? However, my problem with Abby's quest for revenge is the method she chooses. And this leads us to her moral ambiguity. While her motivations are rooted in deep loss and betrayal, the brutal choices she makes raises important questions. Is Abby justified in her actions, or does she cross the line into villainy? Moral ambiguity. Abby isn't a straightforward villain. She has moments of compassion, especially with Lev, but my biggest issue is with her apathy. Throughout the game, Abby shows indifference toward anyone who doesn't benefit her or gets in her way, feeding into an underlying arrogance. She genuinely believes she's justified, no matter the collateral damage. A lot of this entitlement seems inherited from her father. Remember the scene where he wanders off into the woods alone, forcing Abby to risk her life to find him? His selfishness, the way he prioritizes his own desires over the safety of others, even his own daughter, feels like a mentality he passed down to Abby. Take her relationship with Owen as another example. She didn't care that he was with Mel, who was not only her comrade, but also pregnant with Owen's child. Abby chose to betray her so-called friend by cheating with Owen, showing once again how little regard she had for the people around her when it conflicted with what she wanted. And when it came to Ellie, Abby showed no concern for the fact that Ellie had no choice in sacrificing her life for a potential cure. Abby even said that if it were her, she would want her father to go through with the surgery without consent. It's easy to claim that moral high ground when you're not the one unconscious on the operating table. Even Abby's relationship with Lev and his sister wasn't purely selfless. Helping them felt more like an attempt to redeem herself, a way of coping with the guilt of betraying Mel rather than an act of true compassion. Across the board, Abby's choices reflect a deep pattern of selfishness masked as moral certainty. And it's that same mindset that makes her revenge against Joel feel not just inevitable, but disturbingly brutal. I get that Abby wanted revenge, but the way she brutally murdered Joel felt excessive, even monstrous. She knew Joel had killed her father to save the girl he loved like a daughter. And yet, after Joel risked his life to save hers from a horde of infected, she repaid him with a vicious, merciless death right in front of Ellie. Seeking revenge is one thing. Delivering it with that level of cruelty after being shown kindness seems to cross a line. Later in the game, when Abby confronts Ellie and says, I gave you a chance to live your life, her words are a cold, self-righteous statement. Abby frames her decision to spare Ellie not as an act of forgiveness, but as if she were doing Ellie some grand favor, like mercy was hers to give and hers alone to withhold. There's no real remorse behind her words, no guilt, just a sense of superiority, as if sparing Ellie made her the bigger person, when in reality, it only further highlighted her distorted view of morality. Abby sees herself as merciful because she didn't take it further. But true mercy would have been waking up this young girl while she was on the operating table and ask her, do you want to sacrifice your life to save others? Provide her with options instead of saying what you would have done if it was you on the operating table. By the time Abby claims she gave Ellie a chance, she had already shattered Ellie's world beyond repair. She had taken away the one person Ellie loved most, and she did it in the most brutal way possible. Which brings me to my next point. Abby tries to play the victim, but in reality, she's the villain of this story. The line between villain and victim. Abby's motivation for killing Joel doesn't feel purely emotional. It feels transactional, almost clinical. It's as if, in her mind, Joel's death wasn't just an act of revenge. It was a box she needed to check, as if she said to herself, this is what I'm supposed to do to the man who killed my father. And while it's clear that Abby loved her father deeply, the bond they shared doesn't seem to justify the horrific violence she commits in her father's name. Throughout the story, Abby constantly frames herself as the wronged party. Wronged because her father died. Wronged because Owen moved on. Wronged because she grew disillusioned with the wolf. But at no point does she genuinely reflect on her own responsibility in the events that unraveled her life. She never confronts the uncomfortable truth that she played a part in setting this entire tragedy in motion. It was Abby who told her father to go through with sacrificing Ellie, robbing Ellie of the basic right to consent. Without that choice, Joel's actions, violent and devastating as they were, became inevitable. But Abby never takes responsibility for that. Instead, she clings to her victimhood, conveniently ignoring the part she played in the tragedy she's avenging. Many of Abby's actions throughout the game can be mistaken for selflessness. Her decision to help Lev and Yara, for example, is often cited as proof of her redemption. But when you look closer, even these moments seem less about genuine compassion and more about fulfilling a perceived duty or seeking personal absolution. She's trying to outrun her guilt rather than actually atone for it. And that complexity, that blend of selfishness and survival, is what makes Abby such a memorable antagonist. She's not a cartoon villain twirling a mustache. She's a deeply damaged person who can't see past her own pain and who clings to the belief that she's still the hero of her story. But when you trace the trail of destruction she leaves behind, it becomes clear. Abby isn't merely a victim of circumstance, she's a villain forged by her refusal to take responsibility for her own actions. And that brings us to a bigger point. What makes a truly great villain? Abby challenges our preconceived notions of what a villain should be. She's not a straightforward antagonist, but rather a character with layers, flaws, and conflicting motivations. Her role in the story pushes Ellie and us as players to reflect on our own sense of justice and morality. The role of the villain. In any story, the villain's role is to push the hero forward. Villains are just as crucial as heroes for creating a rich, meaningful narrative. In The Last of Us Part 2, the story isn't complete without Abby. The writers did four brilliant things to make Abby a compelling villain. One, they put us in the villain's shoes. Just like in real life, the choices we make define our path. By making us walk alongside Abby, the game forces us to understand her motivations and see her humanity. Two, they gave her clear motivations. Every villain needs goals, and we understood exactly what Abby was trying to accomplish, even if we didn't agree with it. Three, they showed us that Abby is human. She has emotions, regrets, hopes, and fears. They gave her a soul, making her more than just a character to hate. And four, they made her formidable. Abby wasn't just an obstacle. She was a true challenge to Ellie. Her strength and tenacity made Ellie's journey harder and more meaningful. Even if Abby isn't every player's favorite, her depth and complexity challenged traditional ideas of good and evil. And that's what great storytelling should do. Player reactions to her have been wildly diverse. Some despise her, while others sympathize. Personally, I believe Abby isn't the real victim of the story. She is the villain, and a really well crafted one. She embodies the complexity of humanity, forcing us to confront our own biases about morality, vengeance, and justice. This range of emotions prove just how effective her character is, making us question what it truly means to be a villain and where the line between right and wrong really lies. So, what do you think about Abby? Was she a compelling villain, or do you see her differently? I love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's discuss. And once again, I am Milky Way Flyer, giving you a galaxy of games, reactions, and reviews. See ya in the next video. Peace.